It's 5:47 in the evening. You're gripping the steering wheel a little tighter than usual as traffic crawls forward. Your mind is already racing ahead to tomorrow's deadlines, that presentation you haven't finished, the emails piling up in your inbox. But here's what's actually happening right now, something far more immediate than any of those worries. Deep inside your abdomen, at this precise moment, your visceral fat cells are communicating with each other. They're receiving signals from your hormones, your nervous system, your circadian clock, and they're making a decision about tonight. Will they release the energy they've been storing, or will they multiply and expand? You don't realize it yet, but in the next 90 minutes, you're going to make three choices that seem completely innocent, almost automatic. These choices will determine whether you wake up tomorrow morning leaner, clearer, more energized, or whether you wake up more inflamed, more insulin resistant, and carrying more dangerous organ fat than you did when you opened your eyes this morning. Here's the truth that's going to sound absurd until you understand the mechanism behind it. Your body doesn't actually gain fat during the daylight hours when you're active and eating. It gains fat at night while you're sleeping, while you think your body is recovering and repairing itself. And the trigger for this nighttime fat storage isn't your dinner itself. It's not the calories on your plate. It's what happens in the 2-hour window after you finish eating. Most people obsess over morning routines. They wake up early, they exercise before sunrise, they drink their protein shakes and plan their breakfasts with religious precision. And that's fine, that matters. But it's only half the equation. The other half, the half that actually determines whether your body accesses and burns visceral fat or locks it away for permanent storage, happens between 6 in the evening and midnight. This is the window that nobody talks about because it doesn't fit into the motivational Instagram posts and the 5 a.m. workout culture. Let me tell you something that's going to contradict everything you've been taught by fitness influencers and diet gurus. You can eat perfectly clean food from the moment you wake up until the sun goes down. You can track every macro down to the gram. You can hit the gym before dawn and do everything right according to conventional wisdom. And you can still wake up carrying more body fat than you did yesterday because of a single evening pattern you don't even recognize as a mistake. This isn't a willpower issue. This isn't about eating less or trying harder or having more discipline. This is about chronobiology, the science of how your body's biological processes are tied to time itself. And specifically, it's about what happens when your ancient circadian rhythm crashes headfirst into modern life. Your body is still running on an operating system that was programmed over 200,000 years of human evolution. For the entire span of human existence until about 100 years ago, people ate during daylight hours and fasted through the night. Your metabolism, your hormone production, your digestive enzymes, every single cellular process is still programmed for this pattern. But now you're eating dinner at 8 or 9 at night under artificial LED lighting, scrolling through your phone, your mind spinning with work stress, your nervous system firing as if you're being hunted by something dangerous. Your body encounters this contradiction and has no evolutionary template for how to process it, so it does the only thing it can do to protect you. It stores everything you eat as fat and shifts into emergency preparation mode. What I'm about to show you are 5 biological signals that determine whether your body burns fat while you sleep or whether it stores fat and holds on to it desperately. These aren't tips or tricks or biohacks. These are physiological mechanisms that are operating in your body right now, whether you're aware of them or not. Your liver has an internal clock. Scientists call it the hepatic oscillator, and it controls how your liver processes every nutrient based on what time of day it is. Between 6 in the morning and 6 in the evening, your liver is in active processing mode. The enzymes that break down food are fully active. Your insulin sensitivity is at its peak. Your body efficiently converts what you eat into usable energy. But after 7 in the evening, your liver begins its shutdown sequence.
Enzyme production drops by 40%, your pancreatic function decreases significantly, your insulin sensitivity plummets. What this means in practical terms is that the exact same meal, the same plate of food with identical calories and macronutrients, will create completely different metabolic outcomes depending on whether you eat it at 6 in the evening or 9 at night.
Study conducted at the Salk Institute in 2019 that tracked two groups of people eating identical calorie amounts. The first group ate all their food between 8 in the morning and 6 in the evening. The second group ate between noon and 10 at night. Same total calories, same macronutrient ratios. The only variable was timing. After 12 weeks, the first group lost an average of 8.6 pounds of visceral fat, the dangerous fat that surrounds your organs. The second group lost nothing. Some people in that group actually gained weight. Why would this happen? Because their liver was trying to process food during the hours when it's supposed to be in repair and regeneration mode, not digestion mode. The protocol is simpler than you think, but requires precision. Your last bite of food needs to happen no later than 7 in the evening. Not the time you sit down to dinner, the time you take your final bite and put down your fork. This creates a minimum 12-hour overnight fast before you eat breakfast the next morning. During this fasting window, here's what's happening inside your body. At hour 8, your insulin levels drop back to baseline. At hour 10, growth hormone begins to rise. At hour 12, your body shifts into a metabolic state called ketosis, where it starts burning stored fat for fuel instead of waiting for incoming food. You're literally reprogramming your metabolism while you sleep, but only if you stop eating early enough to allow this cascade to happen. Here's something that most doctors never explain to their patients. Your insulin sensitivity follows a circadian pattern throughout the day. You are most insulin sensitive in the morning when you wake up, and least insulin sensitive at night before bed. This is controlled by a protein called BMAL1 in the beta cells of your pancreas. BMAL peaks in the morning hours and crashes in the evening. The translation of this scientific fact into real-world impact is striking. The same 50 grams of carbohydrates from rice or bread will cause a 40% higher insulin spike if you eat them at 8 at night compared to eating them at 8 in the morning. Here's why this timing matters so much. Insulin is the master fat storage hormone in your body. When insulin is elevated, an enzyme called hormone-sensitive lipase gets deactivated. This enzyme is what breaks down stored fat and releases it into your bloodstream to be burned for energy. Without it functioning, your fat cells are locked shut. You could be in a caloric deficit. You could be genuinely hungry. Your body will still refuse to access stored fat because insulin has the final say over whether fat cells open or stay closed. But there's something even more damaging that happens when you eat carbohydrates in the evening hours. They suppress growth hormone release during your sleep. Growth hormone is your body's most powerful fat-burning hormone. It peaks during deep sleep, specifically during the first 90 minutes after you fall asleep. But growth hormone and insulin have an inverse relationship. When one is elevated, the other is suppressed. If you eat carbohydrates at night, insulin stays elevated for 3 to 4 hours after your meal. This blocks your first wave of growth hormone. By the time insulin finally drops back down, you've already missed your most anabolic fat-burning window of the entire night. After 4 in the afternoon, you need to limit carbohydrates to vegetables only. No grains, no fruit, and no starchy vegetables like potatoes or sweet potatoes. Your evening meals should be built around high-quality protein and non-starchy vegetables. Think wild-caught salmon with asparagus and a side salad dressed with olive oil, or grass-fed beef with sautéed spinach and roasted Brussels sprouts. You're giving your body all the nutrients it needs without triggering the insulin response that locks your fat cells and blocks fat burning through the night.
Most people finish dinner and immediately shift into what I call digital stress mode. They collapse on the couch, open their laptop, start scrolling through work emails, watch the news, argue with strangers on social media. Their meal is sitting in their stomach trying to be digested, but their nervous system is in fight or flight mode. This creates a biological disaster that most people never connect to their inability to lose body fat. Digestion is a parasympathetic process. It requires activation of the vagus nerve, which triggers what's called rest and digest physiology. Blood flow needs to be directed to your digestive organs, your heart rate needs to slow down, your cortisol needs to drop. But when you're stressed, even if you're just sitting still on a couch, your sympathetic nervous system is dominant. Blood flow gets diverted away from digestion and redirected toward your muscles and brain, preparing you to fight or run. Your gut motility slows down dramatically. Food sits in your stomach fermenting instead of moving through your digestive tract efficiently. This causes three cascading problems. First, incomplete digestion leads to endotoxin production, bacterial waste products that leak into your bloodstream and trigger systemic inflammation. Second, elevated cortisol blocks insulin function, causing reactive hypoglycemia and those intense late-night cravings that feel impossible to resist. Third, poor gut transit means you wake up bloated and constipated with inflammatory cytokines circulating through your bloodstream. All of these signal to your body that you're in emergency mode, and the response is to store fat, not burn it. The Japanese have a concept called hara hachi-bu, eating until you're 80% full. But they also have another practice that Western culture has almost completely abandoned. They walk after every meal. Within 5 minutes of finishing dinner, take a walk outside for 15 to 20 minutes at a conversational pace. No music blasting in your ears, no podcast, no phone. Just walking and breathing. This simple practice does 4 things simultaneously. It activates your parasympathetic nervous system through rhythmic movement. It improves glucose disposal as your muscles pull sugar from your bloodstream without needing insulin. It stimulates peristalsis through gentle mechanical movement of your intestines, and it lowers cortisol through bilateral stimulation and optic flow, the visual sensation of moving through space. When you return home after this walk, you're in a completely different metabolic state. Digestion is optimized, stress hormones are down, fat burning is primed. This is the signal that most people completely ignore, and it's quietly destroying their metabolism without them realizing it. Your body produces a hormone called melatonin. Everyone knows melatonin helps you fall asleep, but almost nobody knows that melatonin receptors are located in your pancreatic beta cells, the exact cells that produce insulin. When melatonin rises at night, it's supposed to send a signal to your pancreas telling it to shut down insulin production because you're entering the fasting state. It's time to switch to fat burning. But here's the catastrophic problem. Melatonin production is controlled by light exposure to your eyes. Specifically, blue light wavelengths between 450 and 480 nanometers suppress melatonin production up to 90%. Your LED lights, your television, your phone screen, your laptop, they're all blasting blue light directly into your retinas until midnight or later. Your brain thinks it's 2 in the afternoon. Your pancreas keeps producing insulin. Your growth hormone never rises. Your body never enters repair mode. A study from Northwestern University in 2017 showed that just 3 hours of evening blue light exposure decreased insulin sensitivity by 20% the next morning. That's from one single night. Do this every night for a year, and you're looking at pre-diabetic insulin resistance regardless of how clean your diet is. After sunset, your home needs to transform into a dark, warm environment that mimics the natural light cycle your biology expects. After 6:30 in the evening, turn off all overhead lights. Use only table lamps with warm bulbs, 2700 Kelvin or lower. At 7, put your phone in another room. If you absolutely must use it, enable night shift mode to maximum and wear blue light blocking glasses. At 8, no television. Read a physical book under warm light or have an actual face-to-face conversation. At 9, lights completely off except for dim amber night lights if you need them for safety.
What you're doing is allowing your melatonin to rise naturally for 3 to 4 hours before you actually fall asleep. This creates a powerful insulin sensitizing effect that works overnight. When you wake up tomorrow morning, your fasting insulin will be lower, your fasting glucose will be lower, and your body will be in fat-burning mode before you even eat breakfast. Your body temperature follows a circadian rhythm just like your hormones. It peaks around 5 in the afternoon and reaches its lowest point around 3 in the morning. This temperature drop isn't random or accidental. It's essential for deep sleep, growth hormone release, and metabolic repair. But here's what changes everything. The magnitude of this temperature drop directly correlates with the amount of fat you burn overnight. Your body has 2 types of fat tissue. White adipose tissue is the fat you want to lose, the fat that makes you look and feel heavy. Brown adipose tissue is metabolically active fat that burns white fat to generate heat. When your environment is too warm, brown fat stays dormant because you don't need to generate heat. But when you sleep in a cool environment between 60 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit, your body has to work to maintain core temperature. Your brown fat activates and literally burns white fat to keep you warm. A study from the National Institutes of Health in 2014 showed that sleeping at 66 degrees Fahrenheit for just 1 month increased brown fat activity by 40% and metabolic rate by 10%. Participants burned an extra 100 to 120 calories per night while sleeping without any dietary changes whatsoever. At 9 at night, set your thermostat to 65 degrees. Sleep with minimal covering, just a light sheet. Keep your room completely dark and cold. If you can't control the thermostat, sleep with a window open or use a fan pointed at your upper body. You should feel slightly cool when you first get into bed, not shivering, but definitely not warm or cozy. Within 20 minutes, your body adapts and you'll sleep deeper than you have in years. When you wake up, you'll notice something different immediately. You're not puffy. Your face looks leaner. Your stomach is flatter. That's not dehydration. That's actual fat oxidation happening while you slept. Here's what this looks like in real time, starting tonight. 5:30 in the evening, you leave work. Decompress during your commute with silence, no phone calls, no podcast. 6 o'clock, start preparing dinner focused on protein and vegetables with 0 refined carbohydrates. 6:45, you finish eating with your last bite by 7 at the latest. 6:50, you immediately take a 20-minute walk with no distractions, just movement and breath. 7:15, you return home, dim the lights, put your phone in the bedroom on silent. 7:30, read a book, stretch, talk with your family, prepare for tomorrow without any screens. 9 o'clock, take a warm shower, bedroom temperature set to 65 degrees, lights off. 9:30, you're in bed, asleep by 10. That's it. No supplements, no equipment, no gym membership, just strategic timing and biological alignment with how your body was designed to function. What happens when you follow this protocol for 30 consecutive days? Your fasting insulin drops significantly, your insulin sensitivity increases, your growth hormone production normalizes, your visceral fat becomes accessible fuel instead of toxic storage that your body desperately protects. You wake up with visible abdominal definition for the first time in years, not because you did more crunches or restrictive dieting, but because you finally stopped interrupting the fat-burning process that was trying to happen every single night. This isn't about restriction or deprivation, it's about rhythm and timing. Your body wants to burn fat. It's designed to burn fat. It's trying to do this every night while you sleep. You've just been interrupting the process with late eating, bright lights, stress, and warm sleep environments.
The moment you stop interrupting these natural processes, your biology takes over and does what it's supposed to do. Fat loss becomes automatic, not because you're trying harder or suffering more, but because you're finally working with your design instead of fighting against it. Your belly fat isn't stubborn, your metabolism isn't broken or damaged, you're just operating on the wrong schedule, out of sync with your circadian biology. Starting tonight, you have the power to change that completely. The mechanisms are already inside you, waiting to be activated through timing instead of effort.